if people watching this and listening to this can't immediately come up with things to be thankful for, then it's probably worth reassessing kind of where you're at, because we each have so much to be thankful for, and a lot of stuff that we don't even think about enough, I would say.
Real Estate Investing Profits presents Profit Masters with your host, world-renowned real estate coach and investor, Corey Boatwright. Now, strap in and get ready to learn elite wealth-building investment strategies taught by 6- and 7-figure house flipping masters as they reveal their best real estate investing profit secrets to you right now.
What is going on, potty people? This is Corey Boatwright. I am your host of Real Estate Investing Profit Masters and the founder of Real Estate Investing Profits. I hope you're having a phenomenal, fun, productive, intentional, grateful day. And I am going to bring you an interview today that's a little different. We're going to switch things up. All right. How do you like that? Today, we're going to talk with Mr. Nick Raithel. Okay. And Nick has a program called the 7-Hour Book. And what he does is he extracts all of your expertise, right, and puts it into a book. And all of a sudden you become a self-published author, and he can get you ranking highly with the marketing of that book. But he specifically focuses on getting that book out into the world, right? All of your knowledge. And he finds a way to create the book very quickly and very professionally. And so I'm excited for you to hear about how this works, right? He has a company that's Content Corp, and you're going to hear more about what he does there and what he's offering. I think you're going to dig that, because guess what? If you're a real estate investor, you do things on autopilot, right? You do things because you've always done them. And someone asks you, what do you do in your business? You can just walk through it. You can tell them everything you do. But have you ever thought about putting that into a book? Right? I didn't think about that for a long time. Then someone said, "Hey, can I take you out to lunch, Corey? I want to ask you about your real estate investing." I was like, "Okay, sure." So went out and had lunch and talked, and he was like, "Oh yeah, it was great." And the next, week after that, I was like, "Hey, can I take you out to lunch?" And pretty soon, because at that time, I was doing these short sales, right? We don't do short sales now. We do all wholesaling. But at the time, I was focused in short sales in 2006, 7, 8, 9, and about to the end of 11. And people were asking me all the time about short sales. So I eventually wrote a course on short sales, and I got a book, and I started doing all these things about this publishing aspect in the education world, and basically creating the hybrid of being an investor first and then creating a book from it, because I simply thought that was the fastest way that I could get the information in as many people's hands as possible. And even kind of selfishly, believe it or not, in the greater OKC area, I wanted to get all of the deals from all the agents. So we actually had a continued education program on short sales. It was great. But what happened was, the books are great, but then also you have to make sure you have marketing. You have to make sure that it's good. And so having somebody that, I had to figure all the stuff out myself, right? I went through my first self-published book. I mean, it was, I messed up a lot of different things in there. We had a bunch of different people that wrote in there. So I did this kind of collaboration in my first book. But I'm still excited and still happy about it, but I had to learn so many things all on my own, right? So how great is it to have somebody that already knows how it works, has these self-published authors, these best-selling authors, all coming from his work and his experience. So you're going to check out this interview with Nick, and I think you're going to really dig it, especially if you're interested in making a book, right? All right. So have you downloaded your Ultimate Real Estate Investing Quick Start Guide? If you haven't yet, text the word profit to 38470. Profit to 38470, and it'll be auto-magically sent to you. Also, if you're interested in real estate coaching, specifically wholesale coaching, I want to talk with you, right? We do this strategy session that determines where you are, where you want to go, and the bridge to create that to get you to where you want to go as fast as possible. So you can go to Corey's Coaching, CORYS coaching.com. And I have a video I recorded there for you. I want you to watch it and then answer a couple questions on that page. All right, here you go. Here is the interview with Mr. Nick Raithel. All right, Nick, are you there?
I am, Corey.
How are you doing?
Great to be here.
Good to be here. I'm glad you're on the show. It's pretty interesting because we typically have real estate investors on the show, and what we're doing today with your expertise is actually taking out of the real estate investor all the knowledge, everything that they know and they've done for many, many years. And I can't tell you how many times I've had emails that come in for investors saying, I read your book, Corey, on Amazon, and how did you do that? Or, how did you write a book? And so, it's interesting because that process seems like it's pretty daunting, and it can be if you go into it all by yourself. But you've created a system, it looks like here, that is, made it where it's pretty step by step on exactly what to do. And in fact, what I really like about what you've done is that you've created a done for you option where you can spend some time with someone and just get everything out of them that you need in order to work on what the book is going to be, and you have the questions that you ask them. So I'm excited about talking to you a little bit more about that. And before we go into that, I do want to kind of find out what got you involved with this angle of just getting information out of people from their expertise.
Well, I would say it's a saying I heard that I'm not sure who it's accredited to, but it's this idea that the wealthiest place on the planet isn't the diamond mines. It's not the banks. It's not the jewelry stores. It's the cemetery. And they say that in the cemetery, you will find the ideas that were never realized, the knowledge that people had that they never passed on. You'll find all of those things. So as I heard that quote and I began to think about the kinds of people I was working with, investors, entrepreneurs, business owners, it really sunk in for me and struck home that they were in just that position. They had all of these experiences, all of that knowledge, and it really would just go with them, whether to the grave or to retirement, and just go to waste and wouldn't be able to be used as an asset in their businesses or even passed on to help other people out beyond that.
Sure. So what got you involved in this line of business? How did you kind of go, wow, this is what I want to do. I know I want to get this. I want to take all this information out of an investor or out of someone that knows something that is their craft, but they do it all the time, so there's no big deal to them because they've learned it and they do it. But then they don't realize how valuable that information is, and then they can actually write about it. And creating a book, I know for myself, having a book it created a new authority in the marketplace. And so that authority has opened up all kinds of doors. It has investors that come over and say, hey, I read your book. I have some questions for you. I've got, deals out of it. I read your book. Obviously, I know that you know what you're doing. So you have this authority, with having a book. What got you involved in doing this business?
I think a couple of things. I think in terms of being involved per se, I was already working in marketing with business owners, working with entrepreneurs, self-starters.
Okay.
So in doing that, of all the forms of marketing that really appealed to me personally, and that I saw they had the greatest need for as well, was something that had some weight behind it. And when I say weight, I'm talking about physical weight, actually, literally having weight. A blog post is great. A Twitter entry is great. A Facebook post is great. They're all great forms of content.
Sure.
But a book with physical weight and what we like to call a thud factor, that's THUD, a thud factor, where it literally thuds on the desk of the person you give it to, that counts for so much in terms of marketing and so much in terms of building your authority. And the more I realized that, the more eager I was to help people to put that together.
Sure. And there's so many people that still like to order the books, and go through them. I know also digital downloads of books is becoming, incredibly powerful. I know I go through, Amazon books like crack. I mean, that is literally my learning crack and Audible too, listening to books. So, what is it with, getting this information out of an expert? What's kind of the first step that you go into in order to first define if this is going to be a good candidate for you? If they're going to be, say I want to write a book, people listening right now, they want to write a book. What is the process of what that looks like for them?
Sure. Well, the very first step would be to go to our website, ContentCorps, ContentCorps.net, and just look at what we have and see if it even makes sense for them. Because I want to be clear that our system often is not a fit for a lot of people, and that's okay. I would also say that, and I would actually strongly encourage a lot of people who are listening to this to even question why a book is something they would want to consider. Because
what kind of answers do you get with that? Yeah, that's a great question. What kind of questions or what answers do you get whenever you ask your clients that?
Well, I hear that, of course, they want to build their authority. Some of them just like the idea, plain and simple, of having their own book. Others are planning to sell it. More people are looking to have something to promote on their podcast and use as a lead magnet. Yes. Books as a lead magnet is a very big thing. It's funny. I was just talking to a guy who did an early morning call today, and that was precisely why he wanted to have a book as a lead magnet for his business, for his coaching service.
One of my friends, Russell Brunson, real quick here, he just released a book, sold over 50,000 copies in a matter of days. And, watching his process, in fact, his website, he actually explains how he's going to sell 1 million books or distribute 1 million books. And it's a whole process on his website, and he's documenting the process as you go. And he mentioned several times that the power of a book, and this is his second book. And so there's a journey that people follow through. Do you often have, whenever somebody writes one book, that they'll come back and do a second book with you?
Oh, absolutely. And it's more than that. I mean, I can't tell you, Corey, the number of times that I'm working with someone, and in the process of doing one of our calls even, they'll suddenly realize, hey, I want to do another book on the spot. And they'll be like, oh, and by the way, when we're doing this other book, and I'm like, wait a second, don't we need to finish this first one? And they're like, well, I'm already mentally on the second book by now. Sure. I'm like, all right.
Sure. Yeah, that's pretty interesting, because what's the time frame? What's the gap when someone does a book and then they come back and want to do another book with you?
I would say that the common answer in any kind of marketing situation that it depends. But I've had it be as short in one case. I mean, this is probably a little bit of an exception, but I had it as short as about a week and a half. We got the thing out, and then the guy was emailing me. I mean, it was almost around the time of April 1st, so I had to kind of pinch myself and be like, is this an April Fool's joke? But he was dead serious.
Right. So he was so good. You did such a good job with him. He wanted to do a second one, I guess, right off the bat. He wanted to get it lined up and cranking. Well, how long does it take? What's the time frame? So if I want to start a book and you create it and help me create it, what's the time frame look like typically? And what's the typical length? I know this it's different for everyone, but like when I read a book is about 150 to 200 pages. I can usually get through a book in a week. If I read a certain amount of pages a day, and that's how I've done it for years and years. What's the time frame for creating the book with you, and then what's the length that you typically see with the folks that you work with?
Well, for the first one with the time frame, we break our process down, and sort of philosophically we do it on two different approaches. So one is really geared towards those authors or aspiring authors out there who we're going to help, who need something pronto. They're speaking at an event and they need something to sell from the back of the room. They have a product launch, for example, and they want a book that ties into it. Yes. They need a book, and frankly, they needed it yesterday. I mean, it's that kind of an urgency.
Sure.
So when they come to us, we're working from much more of a templated approach to the actual content, where maybe there's some familiar structure. It's all original, by the way. We never, ever, ever plagiarize anything. We're very big on that. We're very big on using material that is original and that fits, and that you're not going to get a rehash thing. But at the same time, with this kind of pronto focus on one hand that we do, it is a little bit more templated, and it's not as, you're not as much in the book per se, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So for that, we can have something out usually within maybe 3 to 4 weeks on average, I would say.
Okay.
Using that sort of thing. We kind of commonly refer to that.
What's the length of that, Nick, typically? Give me a length of how many pages?
Sure. I would say for that, usually you're looking at a minimum, I would say, of 50 to 60 pages. I mean, we're not putting together, little pamphlets that you hand out on the street corner. I mean, this is going to be something more substantial than that. But I would say usually about 50 to 100 pages is about the right length for that.
Gotcha.
For that first kind of pronto approach, which we like to refer to it as the express lane, because the idea is like you're jumping in the car, shooting down the interstate highway, and when you do that, you want to get from point A to point B quick, so you hop in the express lane.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sure. And that's so 3 or 4 and 50 or 60 pages. So your typical book's probably over 100 pages then, right?
Yeah, that first approach I just mentioned, Corey, that is one of our 2 approaches.
Okay.
So that would be one of the 2 ways that we can do a book with someone within our overall 7-hour framework. The other side is, and I personally like this approach just a little bit better, because I like getting to know the authors we work with, really getting to understand and help them as best I can as people.
Right.
The other approach is what we typically refer to as the road trip. And with the road trip, what you're looking at is usually a couple of months on average, and it's going to be much more personalized. The book's going to also be a lot longer, but it's really going to have more of you as an author in it, because you don't have an impending deadline that's forcing you to come out with a book.
Right. I'm writing some notes down here. I'm going to put all these, by the way, these links, and I'm also, if it's fine with you, I'll put some examples of books that you've done here. So I've seen some of these covers; they look great on the website, and so people can definitely check out that. Let's talk about that on a cover, because I do think that that's one thing. If this is going to be a representation of you, how many iterations of a book cover for design? And do you handle it from start to finish? I mean, they come in, they say, I have an idea, and then you just take it, you get everything out of them, you derive everything else out of them, and including when you get to the design, the cover, how all those things. Do you handle all of it from start to finish?
We do, yes. We're not, I do want to be clear, we're not a publishing house in the sense that we're not Random House, or we're not Macmillan.
Sure.
I mean, we're not a publisher in that sense. But in terms of the person comes to us, they don't have time to worry about the details. They don't have time to find a graphic designer. They don't have time to handle the formatting. From that standpoint, absolutely. Okay. We're going to handle that for you. You're not going to have to lift a finger on that unless you want to. But if you don't, we're going to handle all of that.
That's fantastic. And that's such a time saver, Nick. I know when I, created my own books, going through all of the images, all the graphics, and going through all of those things, it takes time. Then you have new iterations of that design that you like. And, doing it on your own, takes so much time compared to having a company and a service that just does everything for you. I know that one of the big questions on everyone's mind right now is the price. What's the cost that they're looking at whenever they work with you? And I know that question probably is a little bit loaded, because not every person's going to be the same kind of want the same things. But can you talk about what maybe the cost is involved by working with you, or what's the best way to kind of answer that question?
I think the best way to answer that question would be something that I thought about a little bit earlier in this conversation and probably makes the most sense for us to cover on now, which is someone needs to, before any of this even enters the picture, think about, is a book really the best thing for them? And what I mean by that is the benefits we're talking about, could you get them, or could you get what you're personally after through a different means? What if you were to run some Facebook ads? Would that be all you need? Maybe what you need to do is start a podcast, like what you've done, Corey. There are all of these other channels, which, depending on your goals, could actually end up being the right approach for you. So I think it's important for people watching this and listening to it to definitely consider a book, but also think about their specific goals and whether there might be another channel, another approach to reaching those goals.
Sure.
I think that really needs to be step one.
Okay, so let's say that they considered all the other channels and they know the book is for them, right? What are they looking at in terms of working with you and investment wise?
Well, all of that is determined once we've had a chance to talk to them. And once that happens, usually what we'll do is we'll allow them to kind of get started with us for under $100. We actually have kind of a package that lets them begin planning out the book and seeing if it even is something that they want to do, and getting some professional help.
That's a great
for under
investment.
100 US.
Great investment. And you know what I like about that is that then you can decide, listen, do you want to go further, with it, and understanding kind of what's all involved. And I love that. I love that. That's a great investment for them, because then there's some decisions on moving forward, what they're really looking at on, getting a book from start to finish out and complete. Now let's speak about distribution. Would you handle the distribution as well? In
terms of distribution, Corey, what specifically are you talking about? Just help me to understand.
Did you get it on Barnes and Noble? Do you get it on, these iTunes? Do you syndicate, or how do you help them on getting the book distributed, getting it out there to the public?
Absolutely. In fact, we encourage them and really work with them while we're getting the book together to create it in such a way that it will be able to go viral and it will be able to have an effect. And that's something that I think a lot of people, whether they end up working with us or not, need to keep in mind, that the time for marketing, the time for making your book work isn't at the end. It's at the beginning, and it's certainly while you're creating the book. Yes. Because so many authors, and so many times I see it, you probably have too, Corey.
Yes.
People spend all of their time writing it and making it. And then at the end, it's like, oh yeah, now we have to think about getting people to know this thing exists.
Right.
And you can't be like that. You have to be actively integrating your marketing into the process of creating the book. In fact, we'll even go so far as to encourage our authors, when we work with them, to write your marketing, bake your marketing into the book as it's being created.
Yes.
And that's just the start, really.
Sure. That's one thing that's interesting is, I think some people listening right now, they may not really understand the value of what you just talked about, which when you're getting this out to the public, there is a whole other process that's involved with that. And for you to have the knowledge and the experience of authors in the past, right, that have got their books out and they've distributed them everywhere, and now you have those channels that you can discuss and that know that which ones work and how to best position that person. Because really, when you think about what a book is, it's all about positioning, isn't it, Nick?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, positioning from the reason why you do the book in the first place to positioning in the sense of what you do with it once it's ready and as you're getting it ready.
Yes, and a book, when you have a book, when you walk into a meeting, when you have someplace, you can use your book as the new business card. And it's so much better when you're able to give these things out, order many of them for yourselves and give them out. because it creates this another perception of the type of work that you're involved in, what you do. It puts another layer of authority on it because there's a perception. There's a perception whenever you have a book that is different from someone just saying, hey, talk to this person. When they come in, you meet them and they say, oh, you know what? I just finished this. I want to make sure I brought a copy to you. Here's my book, and by the way, I signed it in there for you. Maybe one day that'll be worth something on eBay or whatever, but here you go. And here's something I wrote in there, something. So it's endearing. Here's something to sign to you. And then it's also a dialogue of your expertise, right? It is a complete understand. It is a easy way for someone to go through the book and have a clear understanding of what you do and how you're able to help them.
I would take it one step further too and add something that is usually overlooked, which is that a book is almost like your insurance against having your time wasted, especially as an investor. Because when you think about it, the more successful you get, and you probably have this happen to you quite often, Corey, where you have someone and they say, I want to pick your brain, or can I take you to coffee? And there's nothing wrong with that. We all started off that way. In fact, I try to help out those people as much as I can because it's so great to see someone coming up like that. Yes. But at the same time, your time and your energy and your resources are in a very fixed, very finite supply. And you can't, whether you want to or not, you can't be going on every single coffee meeting. You can't be taking necessarily every single phone call. You really do need to be selective about your time and your focus. And so when you have a book out there and someone comes to you like that, if you don't necessarily want to take the meeting or you're not feeling as comfortable about taking that meeting, you can send them a copy of your book.
Yes.
And then if it makes sense after that, you can choose to follow up and continue the conversation. And not only with people who want to pick your brain, with potential investors or people who want to potentially do deals with you. This keeps you, when you have this book, you can send them. This keeps you from heading to Starbucks, waiting there, looking nervously at your watch and wondering, is this person going to show up? Did I just waste 30 minutes coming over here? Yes. A book really is your insurance against those kind of meetings.
It absolutely is. And I've done that many times. I was thinking as you're talking, if I had a copy readily available that I could show. The book, let me see if I can find one here. Here we go. Here's one. So, if you can see this here, I'm putting up people there.
Yeah.
So this one's called Real Estate Recession Riches, and it's a pretty thick book. It's about 180 pages, 170, 180 pages. What we did on this particular book is I had other people that we interviewed in the book. So you can see here there was many other experts that we interviewed in the book. And what we did is every single one of the authors got their own cover. So I have, maybe 20 or 30 pages in here of my own experiences and things I've done and talking about my story. And then we have 20 or 30 pages of someone else. And so their book was a different cover. So it was the same book, but everybody got a different cover, right? So, that's one way that you can do a book. I've got the other 3 on Amazon that, that you can do a book where it's just you and only you, and talking about your processes and procedures, naming those processes and procedures so you can kind of create a more of a definite your formula or your recipe for doing whatever it is that you do. So there's all these different ways that you can create a book, and you got to come whenever they work with you. You're going to ask them some questions on what is it that you want to accomplish. What is going to be your expertise, right? What's the thing that people know about you and say that you're the best at, right? And so these questions, you'll pull some of those things out of those people, and then from there it makes it easier. Because I think when some people listen, they're like, I can't write a book. I mean, how am I going to write a book? But I'm sure you've had many people come to you and say, I don't know how I can write a book. But that's why you created the service and the product, because now you help them get that information out of them, so now they can create the book, and in only a matter of weeks the thing could be done. So you can go from idea, conception, to reality, and actually have a product in hand.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on really the gist of what we do, which is taking it from idea to actual product. Yes. And I would add to everything you're saying that a lot of people, and this is really unfortunate, Corey, but a lot of people get caught up in the sense of thinking that my idea isn't groundbreaking enough, or what good is my idea? What good is the knowledge and the experience I have to share? And that's just so counterproductive. It really is akin to entrepreneurs in business, yes, thinking that they need an original idea. They need the next Coca-Cola, yes, or they need the next Facebook. And you don't. Yes. Bottom line, you don't. Get started. Do what you can, as they say. Do what you can where you are with what you have, and run with it, because you'll be pleasantly surprised at just how far you'll go.
Right. And don't die with incredible books that's inside you, right? You could write a book, and it's not difficult to do it, and it's intimidating if you go and do this all on your own, and frustrating as well. Figure out all these different parts, but working with you, pretty simple. You come, you get all the information out of them. You talk about how you're going to do the cover. It's a pretty step-by-step process. So I think it's a very valuable service, and I think it's a great way to get someone's expertise out there that can help serve more people.
I appreciate that, Corey. Thank you.
Sure. Well, let's talk about what is one of the great lessons that you've learned going through this process, working with authors and doing this business. What's something that you can impart that would encourage others?
Well, I think one of the most encouraging things I could tell people, it sort of dovetails a little bit on what we were just saying, is the intimidation factor. That oftentimes, and to be totally honest with you, I kind of like it when this happens, but we'll have someone come to us thinking that they want to work with us, thinking that, I could never do a book on my own. And I'll talk to them, and we'll really look at what the roadblocks are. And by the end of the conversation, they'll actually leave feeling empowered, and they'll go on and do the book themselves. I mean, I realize that, we're both entrepreneurs, we're both in business, but it actually kind of delights me when I can leave people feeling better and more confident to do a book themselves. That's great. And to really believe in themselves. That kind of brings a smile on my face.
I love that, man. And it shows that you're out for their best interest over your own, which is very rare these days, Nick. I think most people, they're out for what's in it for me. So I really love that. What, some questions that we ask other, usually investors that come on the show are, a lot of the same kind of questions, because our listeners want to know these things about the guest. But with you really getting the information out of the investor and being an expertise author of, how you can produce a book from someone's expertise, I'm going to kind of bounce around a few questions that I normally would ask, but I'm not going to ask because I think it'd be a little different. So I'm going to ask you, what is some great advice that you would give someone if they have any doubts if they can write a book or not?
Well, I think one of the things I would say is look back at all you've done up until this point. The very fact that you're here right now as an investor, that you've made it this far, as they say, really speaks volumes for your capabilities. Absolutely. It speaks volumes for your ability to learn, to master processes, and to have the discipline. Because let's face it, Corey, investing is a process that requires discipline. Absolutely. So the fact that you have the discipline to succeed and to get this far really speaks volumes about your character and your aptitude for this.
That's great. What's one of your favorite motivational business quotes?
Goodness, you mentioned sort of your educational crack, I think, a little bit earlier in our conversation. Motivational quotes and kind of the positive thinking, but in a good way, is one of my educational cracks, so to speak. So I've got a lot of those. In terms of a specific one, though, probably off the top of my head, it's the one. What is it? Genius is 99% perspiration, 1% inspiration. I think it's something like that. I think it might be attributed to Edison, or I know Churchill had a pretty good one that's, if you're going through hell, keep going. Which isn't bad. There's so much good ones out there.
Yeah, I love them. And, you know, there's another podcast that we're working on right now that I'm super excited about, basically, that we're bringing on authors of books that my buddy and I, Nathan, we love reading books. I mean, just absolutely avid readers, man. I've read a book a week for the last 3 years and listened to Audible. And I mean, I'm just an avid and just love reading. And, you know, bringing the authors of those books on the show is going to be really, really powerful, from exactly what you said, to hear their inspiration of why they created the book and what they wanted to impart to the world from the creation of that book, you know. So I'm right with you on the motivation for authors and things that they say. You know, words have power.
They really do. And, you know, Corey, if I can, don't leave us hanging. If possible, would you mind giving us the name or an ETA for that podcast? Because I'm certainly tuning into it. It sounds like a great show.
It's going to be a great show, right? So we're working on it right now. So we're in episode 4. We're trying to get 5 episodes before we release it, but it's called Book Gangsters.
I like that. Book Gangsters.
Book Gangsters. And it's got a little fun marketing play to it, you know, holding a book instead of a gun. And you know, we're all avid. We love marketing, but yeah, it's called Book Gangsters, and it'll be coming to iTunes very soon. So
I'm definitely going to be one of your subscribers at the very least. Sounds great.
I love it. Do you get 8 hours of sleep every night, man? Is this like, you know, just, are you obsessed with this, or do you have a pretty good, you know, balance of work and sleep and, you know, rest?
I do. I really do have a balance, and I think that it's such a mistake, unfortunately, that I personally see so many entrepreneurs making, that you have to run yourself ragged, that you have to, you know, 2 hours of sleep, 3 hours, 4 hours. I mean, I think that, as with investing, this is a long-term play. And if you're going to be in it for the long term, you need to respect your body. Yes. And you need to respect your sleep. And frankly, I would add that you can't ultimately cheat sleep. I mean, other things I think you can cheat, you can kind of skip on, but really sleep is one of those few things that will catch up to you.
Absolutely.
I had an experience once many, many years ago when I tried to do just that. I tried to cheat sleep, and I ended up falling asleep, of all places, on a public bus, and ended up in a not so nice area. So let me just be one of the first to say that, you know, don't cheat sleep. Don't try to cheat. Get enough. Make sure you kind of have your sleep cycle, if you will, up to date. So it's not just you got one good night of sleep, but that you have a steady stream, a week, 2 weeks, a month, really built up. Because then when cases come up where you do have to go a night or two with less sleep, you'll have a reservoir that supports you, and you won't really feel the gap very much.
Sure. It's true. Do you have a morning routine?
I do, yeah. I'm not on Tony Robbins level necessarily with kind of the ritual or the morning routine, but usually the way I look at it is, it comes back to that quote, actually, or that idea of nourishing the body for the long term. So in terms of a morning routine, I try to focus on nourishing and giving the body and the mind as well what it needs in order to succeed for the day. So in my case, I feel that comes down to motion, for one, like physical movement, because I think that the body needs that and needs to get that in order to really function for the day. Yes. So for me, that would be exercise, cardio, or going to the gym. That's very important. I think also another thing that a lot of people unfortunately neglect and really don't even consider in terms of nourishing the body and in terms of nourishing themselves and really maintaining themselves is hydration. I think that hydration is incredibly underrated. And yet, if you think about how much of our bodies are water, I mean, what is it? 70%. It's some crazy amount. And especially when you wake up in the morning and you've just been essentially dehydrated for 8 hours or 9 hours, getting adequate hydration is fundamental importance, is of paramount importance. So I make sure to drink adequate amounts of water in the morning, not only for the exercise, but also just to get myself physically to where I need to be. And then I think the final part of that would just be eating. I mean, if you're going to exercise or you're just going to get up, eat, and not only eat, but eat right. I mean, I'm sure that everyone out there has their own healthy foods, but whatever you do eat, make sure that it is nutritional, make sure it has energy stuff, make sure it also has stuff that's not going to put you to sleep. Because, I mean, you just slept for 8 hours or 9 hours, you don't want to sleep again.
Yes, so true. And, you know, I could not agree with you more. Water is so important. I think that the quality of your H2O, you know, not that it's going to affect obviously your blood alkaline level, because that would kill you. But I think that your quality of water is something that some people should look into. I do think that having a high alkaline level for your water doesn't hurt anything, and it's better for you. So looking into that. Also, you know, having mini fridges in an area that right when you wake up, like I have a mini fridge in my bedroom. And the reason is because I'm always an arm's length away from water, and I stock it full of water. And in the morning, I drink 1 liter of water, which is a large amount of water. But you're exactly like you said, your brain is actually a huge percentage of water. Your body is made up of a huge percentage of water, and then at night you sweat. So you sweat out usually a pound, sometimes 2 pounds of water weight. And so it's pretty incredible how much water is so important. And so I couldn't agree with you more. Everything works better. Everything. Your muscles work better. Your body works better. You feel better. But it's a process on drinking water. Some people just can't stand it. But I agree with you totally.
Well, in terms of that, the people who can't stand it, I would encourage them to naturally flavor your water.
Yes.
None of that glasso stuff. I mean, glasso vitamin water, that can be fun occasionally. But if you simply put a little bit of a lemon in your water, or you put some lime, instantly it makes it more interesting. It makes it more enjoyable.
Right.
And so it's almost like you're getting the same benefit of buying a drink, but it comes right out of your tap or out of your purifier.
Right.
And it's probably more of the benefits.
Absolutely. What are you most grateful for?
Many things. I mean, I almost don't know where to start with that, because I think the sheer fact that you and I are even talking right now, that I'm alive, conscious, and sentient enough to have this conversation really is just something to be incredibly thankful for. Not only in the sense that, you know, me personally, but just being in this position, period, being alive. But I would say certainly, you know, the life I have, the relationships, you know, the people in my life who helped to get me to this point, you know, the mentors, just everybody in that whole network. I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful really just for even the simple things. It sounds cliche, but the sunsets, you know, the natural world around me, being able to see it, to comprehend it. And I'm thankful also just for the opportunity in the business to work with great people to help make a difference in their lives and their businesses. It's just so much to be thankful for. And I would say that, again, cliche as it sounds, if people watching this and listening to this can't immediately come up with things to be thankful for, then it's probably worth reassessing kind of where you're at, because we each have so much to be thankful for, and a lot of stuff that we don't even think about enough, I would say.
Agreed. You know, your worst day is someone else's paradise. I say that every single morning, and it helps ground you. It helps think about things in a different perspective, you know, and you know, just being consciously aware of all of the things that we take for granted, you know, on a daily basis, can put you in a state of just being grateful too. So, I mean, indoor plumbing, right? I mean, it
Yeah.
can be something as simple as that, but just go to another country, man, they don't have that. Clean water, I mean,
Yeah.
we build clean water wells with charity water, and there's families that don't have that. Their kids cannot drink clean water. So just all kinds of things that it doesn't have to be, it can just be as simple as that, and it puts you in a state of being grateful. You mentioned about a mentor. Do you have mentors in your life, and how important have they been to your success?
No, I mean, I've definitely worked with mentors, and they've been pretty important. I've also found, in terms of mentors, that while people have been good, I've also turned to books. I've turned to people I've listened to
Yes.
in terms of videos, in terms of audio content, whether it's motivational people, whether it's sort of marketing related people being mentors, and even dead people sometimes, people from ancient, other times, prior historical periods, they can be great mentors. Where you sort of think, what would this particular historical figure do in my situation? What would a Churchill do in this case? What would a President Kennedy, what would someone like that do in this case? What would a Reagan? What would any of those sort of people do in this case? How would they respond? And then you sort of bring yourself back and think in their shoes. And often it leads you in some very interesting directions.
You're the first person that's ever mentioned a mentor being a dead person. And I love it. I love the perspective on that, because I cannot agree with you more. There are so many things we can learn from those that come before us, and we kind of stand on the shoulder of giants, right? And I think that, that's a great way to kind of position that. I haven't had anybody ever mention a mentor being a dead person, but I totally agree with it. If you had to summarize why you do what you do, Nick, what gets you out of bed in the morning?
Well, I think jokingly I would start by saying the desire to get some water, as we were just talking about, because you're laying there dehydrating, sweating. How much did you say? Or you're sweating a pound a night or something?
Yeah, about a pound or two a night. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're sweating that much. You definitely gotta get out of bed to get some water. But I would say philosophically, it's the sense that every day really is a new day. Every day is a new day in terms of all of the things that we were talking about being grateful for, a chance to really enjoy those gifts that you've been given. Every day is a new day to make a difference and to really turn over a new leaf, because no matter how bad it was the day before or how good it was the day before, you get that blank slate and you get that chance to kind of change and rewrite the story. The sense you hear very often that the end of this story has yet to be written. It's not over till it's over. And the start of a new day is really that chance to make your mark, to get out there, to say, today is the day. Today is the day it happens. Whether you're taking a trip you've always wanted to take, or today is the day. Today is the day it happens in terms of starting a business or embarking on some kind of a cause that's greater than yourself. You have all of those opportunities, and all you have to do is just get out of bed. I mean, how simple and how easy is that? You just have to get out of bed and just get started, and you can have whatever you want in that. So I think that's a pretty powerful motivator for getting started in the morning.
I love it. It's good. Today's the day for you to write your book. If you have one in you that you want to get out to the world, you want to impact the world and make a difference. And what's the best way we can serve you, Nick? What's the best way to get in contact with you if someone wants to get into that conversation of, yeah, I have a book inside me, I have ideas, all these things I've learned, I need to get it out, I don't know where to start. So, where would they go?
They would go to our website, which is content, CONTENT, core, CORPS.net, NET. So it's content, core like the Marine Corps, .net. And they would have a quick look, or maybe a little bit longer look, decide if this was something they might be interested in. And then we have a form on our website. You can fill it out, and we'll go from there.
That's great. Well, Nick, thank you for taking the time to be on here. Very interesting on how we can easily create a book, create some authority, use that book to impact others. and have the thud factor, which I like that part too. So I appreciate you taking the time to be on here.
It's been a pleasure, Corey. And I would say as well, I'm really looking forward to that other podcast you mentioned that you're doing with Nick. And please, book Gangsters. Please keep us posted on that. I can't wait to check it out.
It'll be great. I will. I'll let you know. I'm excited about it. Super excited about it. So, all right. Well, make sure that you are on our next Profit Masters podcast series, where we're going to be bringing on another incredible guest like Nick most of the time. Like I said, we have real estate investors sharing their marketing, sharing what's working for them today. We're mixing it up a little bit by getting you as the star. You are the person here that is really shining, and you have information inside you. You have all these things that you've learned. If you have a book inside you, call Nick, get in touch with him right over at Content Core, and we'll have everything here in the show notes. We'll also have some covers so you can see. They're really cool, and I can't wait to see the book that you come up with. So thanks again, Nick.
Thank you, Corey.
All right. Remember, be a servant, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye now.
Hi, this is Corey Boatwright, and I have a quick question for you. What is the fastest way to reach your goals? Is it to work harder, work smarter, use system and processes, or hire rock star employees? What about just making more money? Actually, it's none of that. Those things are a byproduct of the one success component that every real estate investor or business owner that I know all have in common. And the answer is clarity. Complete laser focus on what you want, why you want it, and what are you willing to do to get it. So where do you find clarity? By hiring a coach and mentor. Now, could you reach the level of success that you want to achieve by doing this all on your own? The Lone Ranger. Well, maybe, but do you think it would take you double or even triple the time to achieve it compared to hiring a coach and mentor to help guide your path, provide proven instruction with a tailored blueprint that you could follow for building a real estate business that supports your lifestyle and helps you reach your financial and personal goals? Absolutely. Here's the fact. Time isn't recyclable. So I would like to ask you to make good use of it and extend a personal invitation for you to book a phone coaching strategy session by going to callwithcorey.com. That's callwithcorey, Corey spelled CORY.com. I'm going to ask you a few quick questions on that page, and we're going to go over and see how we can make sure that your business is on path to reach the goals that you want this year. So go to callwithcorey.com, that's CORY, and book your phone coaching strategy session today. Remember, be a servant, and I'll see you on there.
You've been listening to another Real Estate Investing Profits Master Podcast series. To receive your free real estate book, Down and Dirty, Ultimate Real Estate Investing Quick Start Guide, how to quit your job to start flipping houses in 90 days or less, head online and go to realestateinvestingprofits.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Real Estate Investing Profits. Thanks again for listening, and stay tuned for our next episode.